All right, cool guys. So the geometric mean means different things in different types of math. But what we're going to do is obviously this is geometry. So we're going to talk about from a geometric standpoint, what is the geometric mean? This is actually a really cool way to relate triangles to one another. And so what I'm going to do to set up geometric mean is to draw a right triangle, and then I'm going to drop an altitude down. Now, you may or may not know that when you drop an altitude, it makes it perpendicular to the base. And you may or may not know that if I drew an altitude from all the vertices, that would create the orthocenter. But you don't really have to know that for this. But with an altitude, what's going to happen is there's going to be a special relationship between this green altitude and the base of the triangle. So what I'm going to call the base is going to be these two little segments. So I'm going to call that base 1, and I'm going to call this base 2. It's like that's the base of this triangle, this is the base of the one on the right, and I'm going to call this A for altitude. Now, what the geometric does is it sets up a relationship between these sides, regardless of the angles, which is kind of cool. So these don't have to have any kind of special relationship, just this picture in and of itself. What happens is that the A squared is going to end up equaling B1 times B2. Now, proof of that would be setting up a proportion where we look at these as two similar triangles, and we do some sort of thing where we set up like long leg over short leg. Like, let me show you what it would look like. Some people use this formula. I'm one of those people. I use this formula and I memorize it and I use the heck out of it. And some people do a proportion where they say like they focus in on this, let's say. And this small triangle, they would view it as maybe the short leg of this triangle over the long leg of this triangle. Then they jump over to this other one here, and they look at this one and they go, okay, so if I just did short leg over long leg, then on this one, I'm going to make that equal to short leg over long leg on this picture, because they're both similar triangles. And then what they would do is they would cross multiply, and lo and behold, look what just happened. The same thing. So I'm a big fan of using this formula, and what you're going to be able to do is all kinds of stuff. You might be asked to find the geometric mean between two numbers. So I might just say, hey, what's the geometric mean of like 11 and 7? And what this is saying, if I give you just the two numbers, it's pretty much as if I had just taken this picture and put an 11 and a 7 right there on the bottom. And so it's asking for you to find that altitude. Or you could just use the formula and think of these as the B1 and the B2. So you're going to have sum A squared equals 11 times 7. So A squared could be, is that what, 77? So A would be the square root of 77. So yay, hooray. So that would be the length of the altitude if there was a picture, okay? Now, the other thing you can do is actually like solve all kinds of stuff inside of the picture. So if you were to see this, let's say, and maybe I gave you, I don't know, maybe this was like a 3, and this was like an x, and maybe this was like a 8, and you were asked to find x. In fact, you know what if you were asked to find x, y, and z? So if you see a picture like this, what I usually do is just really look for that relationship I mentioned of the altitude, base 1, base 2. So I focus on that part of the picture, and I set up my formula that way. So this is my altitude, so I do 3 squared equals base 1 times base 2. That would be my starting point. So 9 is equal to 8x, okay? So if I solve this, x is equal to 9 over 8. Now, is that pretty? No, not at all, but it's the answer. So I know that this little piece is 9 over 8. Now, if we want to find y and z, you have a couple of options. Some people like to do proportions. I do not at this point because, y'all, it's a right triangle, and like my brain just immediately thinks of the Pythagorean Theorem. I'm like, I love Pythagorean Theorem. So I think a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so for this, you just have to know that the z is your hypotenuse. And so you're doing 3 squared plus 8 squared equals e squared. So I would solve it like this. 9 plus 64. Is that 73? And then if this breaks down, we're going to take the square root of both sides. If that breaks down, then break it down. So does 73 break down? I don't think so. No, I really don't think so. So that would be your final answer here. Now, if you wanted to go over and find your y, okay, let me erase to create some room, we would do the same thing. This is another right triangle over here, correct? We have a leg, and we need the y. So I would be like 3 squared plus 9/8 squared equals y squared. And from here, it's a lot of solving with fractions, and I just don't want to do that because I'd rather show you another quick example, okay? So, but that's how you could get through it. So one more very quickly. What if this was your picture? Oh my gosh, that was so bad. Hold on, let me try to fix this. There we go. I like to try to turn them like weird ways, but when I do that, I end up drawing nonsense. Okay, so maybe it's a picture like this, and maybe you don't know this, and maybe you know that this is like, I don't know, maybe this is like a 2, and then you know that the total is like 16. Okay, so let's say you saw this picture. So just like I said earlier, the first thing is look for the altitude, and then look for the bases. So if that's the altitude, then this would be base 1 and this would be base 2. And you may be thinking, well, we can't do it because we don't have base 2, but you do have base 2. You do. If this is 2 and the whole thing is 16, then how much is this little piece? Well, it's got to be 14, yo. You just add it all together, right? So 2 plus 14 has to be 16. So now you have what you need, and you can do the equation. Altitude squared equals base 1 times base 2. So what's 2 times 14? Is that 28? And then we take the square root of 28. And then we break this down. So 28 is 4 times 7, which means that this is 2 root 7. So that would be my altitude, 2 root 7. And then from here, same thing. If somebody said, I want you to find this, and I want you to find this, I would just do Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or if you're doing the other side of the picture, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And it's just a whole lot of Pythagorean Theorem and this formula. So like I said, you could do a proportion if you like, or we can just try to do everything based off of that. So good luck solving triangles. Have fun with that.